Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Naziaty Yaacob, the Talk Architecture host for this podcast. Here we have some notes, and I've been reading the book How Buildings Learn, What Happens After They're Built by Stewart Brand. And what I got from it is an important point, an important factor in actually when we need to assess on mental health balance, and on the other hand, on architecture, on the practice of architecture, on the education of architecture students. The point I'm trying to make is that you need to visualize in order to take action. When we build something, is it adaptable enough or flexible enough to be changed? Because architecture is not static. If we are designing and building something that is static to our own image, to what we desire, we leave out the client's endeavor or the user's endeavor to change it. So how much do we need to design something that is in our own image or in our own vision and not considering flexibility? This is the discussion that we're having with regard to this word visualization. Visualization assists in mental health when one thinks about the goals and the aims of one's life. We could sketch out or map out. Best is to sketch out as detailed as possible in three-dimensional form, or like a perspective. Sketch out a scenery or a scenario, an art piece even of something that we wish to happen, we desire to happen. And it's very intimate to our needs, our wants and desires. Yeah, it is something that we aspire to. And having that sketched out in a form that is we're able to refer to, like in a sketch pad, or place it nearby for us to look at from time to time, it will serve as something that is like a plan, a blueprint for the future. Now, this is just the everyday things that we have in our lives. It is not architecture, but in architecture, we sketch out a plan or a design. And for the architect, the intention is to include or not to include the user or the client in the process of how this architecture that we're visualizing and to be built, is it something that we could see changing in the future? The flexibility and adaptability of that architecture, will that enable the client or the user to suit to their future requirements? Or is it so fixed and so stylized and so signaturized that you can't do much except to follow the agenda that has been set by the architect? This is just a assertion, a hypothesis, meaning the architect could be designing something in collaboration, and that would be a better process earlier in the design, because that brief that the architect has taken is being seriously met to create the new architecture. So with that in mind, how far are we willing to be an enabler rather than be someone who would stick to our own vision? How much would we want collaboration to happen? And how much we wanted architecture to be able to deal with the changes that it might happen to it. But often in the market for architects, you would want to sign up someone because of their style, because they inform something, art, or a beauty in architecture that person could do, which you would want to buy because it is selling and buying. It is a commodity. Architecture as a commodity would be something of another topic that I'd like to discuss as well. But architecture as utility, architecture is functional, in which it suits the purpose of what it is intended to be. But in thinking about what Stewart Brand has asserted in his book, How Buildings Learn, there are different types of buildings, obviously, but any building. I mean, a building type that's very much considered to be something that's very specific. It could be a church, designed in a manner where it is to be worshipped in. It's kind of a fixed vision, but we have heard of conservation projects where they turn the church into a school or an office or a residence, and with a bit of upgrading, it would be comfortable as those functions. And the prototype of the church, which is considered to be based on the basilica form previously, could accommodate to these functions. Straightforward. It has a huge space for the congregation, and a huge space like that, like a factory almost. But a factory would have less decoration or ornamentation compared to a church. So if you don't consider that too much, the ornamentation part, it could be a very robust type where you could change it easily. That is the church building. So when an architect thinks about a form in its purest perception or manner that the architect goes about in designing, they may look for a flexible form or adaptable form that could have change of use easily in the future. And that's what I'm concerned about, is that in architecture education, there is a need to actually address this subject with students of architecture, and how what they do could be something that allows flexibility or adaptability to happen. History meets theory meets architecture design, purely because the past could be used again for the future. Obviously, architecture is somewhat a permanent endeavor. The thing is being built, and it is even costly to demolish it. So how is it adaptable to suit for the changes that could happen? And in that regard, I would like to conclude that for this short interlude on architecture design and on the concept of flexibility and adaptability in building, and that little scope that deals with functionality and form, I would like to conclude another session for us to think about with regard to architecture design and architecture education. Thank you very much.